Why do you think you and Neil work so well together?
You know, I think, one, we respect the process. We respect what we want to get done. Obviously, like I said, we have different personalities, but the goals are the same. I think he's really good at his job, and I'd like to think that I do my job well. And I don't infringe in his area, and he lets me do my job. And we show a united front when it comes to the team and the organization. And you know, for that to happen, there's no divide. And I think when a lot of times between management and coaches, there is that divide at times, and there's never been a hint of that. It is evolving. I mean, you know, the type, how I go about my job today versus 4 years ago is, I think it depends on the players. Obviously, coming to that roster that we had then with all the rookies, what we wanted to get done with that roster, and then how it shifted the next 2 years to contend for a championship. Kind of changed our approach a little bit, and then this year we kind of dialed it back to similar to the first year. But I don't know. It's probably just a comfort level with certainly the players. You know, being with Damian for 4 years, having that continuity with the coaching staff. You know, when I got here with the coaches, I hadn't worked with any of the coaches here. All 5 assistants were new to me, and all of them were new to each other. And again, we talk about culture and continuity. I think that helped with just the evolution of not only just me, but my staff and the type of program that we have here.
You mentioned Damian. That relationship, to have your franchise player come out and say, as long as I'm in the NBA, I want him to be my coach. How important is that for the success of your coaching style, knowing that you've got him leading the way? You
know, some of you know I'm a big fan of the history of the NBA, and when you look at the relationships that the best player has with the coach, those are usually the most successful ones. And so for Damian and I to have gone through what we've gone through in 4 years, and to have the mutual respect for each other, and have the same goal for the team and for success, I think that's positive. Not just, I mean, obviously it's good for a working relationship, but I think it's outstanding for the franchise and for the city, because you know, you can go down the list. I don't need to rattle down the list of players and stars. I mean, stars and coaches that have great relationships. And again, I don't take anything for granted. I've been you know, I've been in this a while, and when things run smoothly, I think it works for everybody. And that's the start of it, is when you're also your best player and the coach are on the same page.
Where have you seen any evolution with Terry and his coaching?
Just from a comfort level. You know, I think, look, I think for Terry and I both, you know, I had been a general manager, you know, Terry had been a head coach, but I think we're both in the same boat, and coming to a place like Portland where there had been such great success that we both felt like we had something to prove. And I don't think that exists anymore. I think now it's just about doing the job. I think the body of work that Terry has the last 4 years gives him the confidence level to know that there's a program in place, there's a model, it works, and we just need to execute and keep adding to it in terms of the talent we put on the floor. But I do, and I don't want to speak for Terry, but I do think, you know, I was an assistant coach in the league as well. I was an assistant GM. I had a short run with the Clippers, and I was lucky enough to get the job from Paul. You know, Terry's talked about it. I mean, if they don't win a championship in Dallas, maybe the opportunity wasn't there for him as an assistant. So he and I knew each other a little bit beforehand, so there's a comfort level. But I think when you put two people together, you know, one who had gone back to being an assistant coach after having a couple of chances, and, you know, one that had a really quick run as a GM in his previous stop, you're going to have that desire to prove yourself. And I think now, you know, the way that Terry can carry himself with what we've accomplished the last 4 years from a development standpoint, you know, as far as building all-stars, building a winning product with various iterations of the roster, which I think is incredibly impressive. And, you know, it's been, you know, talked about, you know, quite a bit, but, you know, winning not just with the core group we inherited by adding pieces, but basically blowing it up and moving on with the guys that were here and bringing guys in from the outside that were maybe undervalued. Just, it speaks to the consistency was Terry and his staff and the program that they had in place, and we were able to plug guys in as long as we made the right decisions. So I think that's the biggest thing, Jace. I think 4 years later, you have two guys that know that as long as we stay true to our model, we don't move away from the kind of culture we're trying to build. We don't become reactionary, that we're patient. We have the full support of our owner with Paul, that, you know, the players are going to see, and the player, look, you can't fool players. So I think that's where it is. Look, I know his short game is a lot worse because he never leaves the office, but
It wasn't that good to begin with.
you know, there's only two ways as a coach. Your short game either gets better or you get worse, and usually there's an inverse ratio to your record on the court. But no, I really don't. I mean, look, the greatest thing about Terry is he's far more even-keeled than I am. You know, and I think that's what the players respond to, is they're getting the same guy. And I've said this about Terry, it's when we were 11 and 18 or whatever it was, he was the same guy at practice that day as when we had that incredible run in February. Look, everybody's a little happier every day, but as far as what the players saw as far as his approach to practice, shoot-arounds, game preparation, the way he treated the guys on the court, the way that he stayed consistent with all of our best practices, I think it stayed the same, and I think that's where the confidence level comes in. So I don't want to speak in generics, but I do think when you believe in yourself and what you're doing and your approach, and you have a body of work that was successful, it becomes easier to stay true to that regardless of record.